I was watching some of the Turning Point, what was going on down there, and some of the speeches I was hearing and some of the commentary I was hearing. And I found myself, maybe I'm the only one, I don't think so, but I found myself shaking my head multiple times at the commentary that was coming out from some of these people who were being interviewed, who were on stage, as if that COVID and the vaccines, I mean, I heard a lot of things that I shook my head at, quite frankly, what's going on in the conservative movement right now and conservative talk. And the ideas that are being tossed around and the questions that are being asked. But to get to one specifically, hearing people say that somehow this is not an issue the Republican Party should be really spending a whole lot of time on, is vaccines and COVID, and somehow this has passed us, really makes me shake my head and wonder what we're talking about here. Because quite frankly, I think it's the issue of our time, what's happening to people and these COVID vaccines. And getting to the root cause of who knew what when as these things were being pushed and mandated and everything else. How could we possibly say that this is not something we should be spending a lot of time on or money on or, just baffling to me. Yeah, baffling to me.
Especially because now that brings me to another news story. I'll just keep it going with it. A newly unredacted, I should say, email from you-know-who, Dr. Anthony Fauci, suggesting that the COVID-19 pandemic may have been grounded in gain-of-function research, essentially reveals his public statements from then on were an aggressive attempt to hide the truth, former CDC Director Robert Redfield said on Monday. Redfield, who served at the same time as Fauci during the Trump administration, said the news further backs up his long-standing belief that the coronavirus originated from a laboratory and not the wet market or zoonotic specimen. I think it's very disheartening, he said, and very depressing. And I've said before that I'm very disappointed in the leadership of both then NIH Director Francis Collins and Fauci, provided in not fostering a rigorous, aggressive, transparent scientific debate about what is really very reasonable scientific evidence that did point at this virus, Redfield said. Now you have it. In his own words, that one, he recognized the abnormality of the furin cleavage site being problematic, and he recognizes that, in fact, contrary to some of his statements, that there was actual gain-of-function research going on in that laboratory. Redfield said he had long been loath to use the term cover-up in regard to Fauci and Collins' behavior, but that the message, which said mutations of the virus that would have been most unusual to have evolved naturally in bats, arose suspicion that this mutation was intentionally inserted, makes that truth pretty clear at this point. I think we really have to recognize that there was a real attempt by leadership of NIH and some major scientists across the world to cover up the fact that this virus was, in fact, a consequence of science. So Redfield has he stated his beliefs on this before, and he's come out now even harder, especially with this new unredacted email and other stories. That one coming from Just the News. Fox also has one in terms of talking about Fauci, what he knew when he knew it, and more information that just keeps coming out regarding Dr. Anthony Fauci and the extensive cover-up when it comes to these emails that are coming out.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that somehow we should just let bygones be, this is what we said the left was going to try to do, that they were going to try to just slither away in the dark of night and hope that you didn't forget and hope that this time's healed all wounds. But what about all of these? I mean, and to hear people on the right supposedly say, well, we shouldn't be, this is over. We shouldn't be giving money to it. We shouldn't be talking about it. And these committees shouldn't be spending any time on it. Seems, as among many things I heard, seems just counterproductive to what we're supposed to be doing here. So that was one of many things I heard. I mean, I feel like we are at such a, because we've had these factions now, there's no nuance anymore in conservative talk right now. It's either you're fully in on DeSantis, you're fully in on Trump, and the other is no good, downright evil, never been. It's just we have no nuance anymore.
Yeah.
And it's leading to discussions on ideas, which is what we're supposed to be about. And we should be about outcomes, not just the show, like actually outcomes. It's leading to things that I really just shake my head at the way some of these things are covered and the things that people say. Like you legitimately can't cover both men legitimately, and both have. I mean, it's just wild. Really, to me, it's wild, some of the things I'm hearing.
Well, I think you're hearing that from professional candidates, right? Professional politicians, the Mike Pences of the world. We heard what he said on Friday because he wasn't listening to the question that Tucker actually posed. If you watch that back, and I watched it a few times too, and we played it a few times, and it's just, he's just nodding his head. He's doing this, but he's not really listening. Right? Because then the question that was that you can hear plain as day is about the United States and the cities and what they deserve as opposed to Ukraine. And what does he say? That, well, that's none of my concern. That means he didn't hear the question. Why didn't he hear the question? Because he wasn't listening to the question. He knew what he wanted to say. He had his prepackaged answer that he knew he had to get out. He had a certain amount of time. I got to get this out. This is for my campaign. I got to get my campaign message out. Much like when Rubio got destroyed in that one debate. Remember that? Because he wasn't talking. He was just speaking. He was speaking a rehearsed script. And he wasn't talking to people. He was just speaking words. And that's the same thing Pence is guilty of. And most of these guys are. They don't really listen. They're going with the prepackaged, what's going to sell? How can I not get in trouble? How can I make sure that I walk the line and nobody gets mad at me for anything because I'm not going to put myself out there? Sorry, you got to put yourself out there. President Trump does it all the time. He doesn't care what people think, but you always know what he thinks. And when you come across the Pences of the world, these professional stooges that just rehearse, here's the script. There you go. Say that, Mike. Okay. And you see it in Biden. He says, end quote, repeat the line. Because they're pre-programmed. They don't think. They can't empathize with you. That's not who they are. They're basically empty suits. So.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I wasn't talking about candidates. I'm talking about what I'm hearing from media, from the talking heads, from commentators, from things like that, from people on Twitter. And at Twitter's just a cesspool of garbage, 90% of it. But even like President Trump, Maria Bartiromo, which I thought was a really good interview. The one thing that you just could not get away from if you were online this weekend was the fact that everybody was, again, these are all people now who are all pro-DeSantis and somehow 100% anti-Trump, which, again, there's just no nuance anymore between the two camps and the two men. It's either you're 100% on the other, and the other one's a Marxist, or might as well be running as a Democrat, or you can't support both, any positions on either one of them.
Right.
But the thing you heard all weekend was, he said he's going to arm Ukraine more than Biden's doing. Well, no, that's not what did you listen to what he actually said? Again, you're missing the nuance of the whole discussion. She asked him, instead of me just talking about it, why don't I just play it? Like, did you listen to what he actually said? Here's the clip of what he said on Ukraine on my screen, Aaron.
You said you could end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
Yes, I could.
How would you do that?
I know Zelensky very well. I felt he was very honorable because when they asked him about the perfect phone call that I made, he said it was indeed perfect. He said he didn't even know what they were talking about. He could have grandstanded, I felt threatened.
Well, that's not going to be enough for Putin to stop bombing Ukraine.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I know Zelensky very well and I know Putin very well, even better. And I had a good relationship, very good with both of them. I would tell Zelensky, no more. You got to make a deal. I would tell Putin, if you don't make a deal, we're going to give them a lot. We're going to give them more than they ever got if we have to.
You said you could end the war in Ukraine.
The headlines I saw all weekend were Trump's going to give them a lot more than Biden gave them.
Oh, right.
That's not what he's saying.
And I'm just wondering, are you that Are you that in the tank for DeSantis and so now anti-Trump for whatever the reason you've come up with that that's what you hear? I mean, it's just crazy where we've gotten to.